Welcome to Beyond the Prep, a podcast dedicated to providing information and insights into the bodybuilding sport. This podcast covers a wide range of topics from finding a coach to the struggling of competing, nutrition, supplements, cost, and much more. I'll be talking with competitors so you can hear their stories, judges, coaches. If you're interested in sharing your story, send me a note at scapach40@gmail.com. Welcome to Beyond the Prep. I'm your host, Sherrie Capach. I'd like to welcome today with me is Ryan Cardinal. Welcome. Thank you for joining me. I know you've been on stage and gets to fuel up now, so that's exciting. So we're gonna talk and chat and eat at the same time.
Yeah, coming off a high, still feel good.
Perfect. So tell me, what got you into bodybuilding?
Yeah, so I've always done competitive sports my whole life.
Okay.
And it's just kind of how it always is with me is I just can't do activities without taking them probably farther than a person always should, right? Like it's somewhat of an unhealthy habit, but it also keeps you interested enough that I always justified it like this anyways, was that it kept me out of other things that I probably could be doing that are completely unproductive, drinking, drugs, hanging out with the wrong people, hanging out, like getting involved in crime or gang activity, whatever it is, right? Like, so, first it was hockey as a young person, and that probably also has a big factor in is that when you play hockey for your entire youth life and youth career, it's just competitive. Like you're around boys all the time, and boys always want to be better than the next boy, and you always just want to keep pushing it. Unfortunately, I wasn't that good at hockey. I don't know why, but maybe living with my grandmother most of my life, I didn't really have the proper support system in order for somebody to tell you that the things you need to do in order to be a good hockey player. Nobody really told me what that was. And there's always coaches and there's always outside influence. We lived on the reserve. We kind of just went to and from hockey. Okay. There wasn't a whole lot of outside influence. Like, like you need like that, like a father or a male or somebody to be like, hey man, like you're not going to get any better unless you do 1, 2, 3, X, Y, Z. But nonetheless, it instilled a sense of like, eventually, like you do progress and you got to put in the work, you got to practice. There are skills you got to hone in and work on. And so I started with hockey, and then when I turned 18, I started playing competitive paintball. Okay. Actually. So I did that for probably about 6 or 7 years. And that's where I really kind of like blossomed into my own. I was a pretty good paintball player. Go around bragging it. Not that anybody cares because I don't know anything about competitive paintball, but I played a lot of competitive paintball over the years, and we were quite good. Like I got lined up eventually with a team here in Edmonton, and we did, I guess technically we only did one American event, but it was World Cup in Florida. We were Division 2 in the NHL, and that would have been one division below Sydney Pro. Oh, okay. And we held our own quite well against these American teams, and these teams, compared to us here in Canada, they're not just teams down there; they're organizations. Okay. Run tryouts. They have a full pit of 20+ people. Like we showed up with 6 guys, podding our paint, loading up our pods, right? So we did that, and we only got blown out by I think one team. It was kind of a bad game, penalties or whatever. So we did well. We were good. We never really continued on after that. And eventually, because I lived in Peace River, it just got really hard for me to keep playing paintball in Edmonton. Oh yeah. Because you got to practice with your team. Yeah. And like some of these guys in Edmonton, they weren't even really coming to the practices, even though they're from Edmonton. So I was making a lot of these trips, showing up to play with 1 or 2 guys, and it's completely unproductive practice.
Right.
Eventually, I gravitated a little more towards just going to the gym. You can just go to the gym because you're I can work out. Right. And that's where, me and my brother Justin, we used to just work out, and we had no idea what bodybuilding was at all.
Right.
We just worked out really hard, and we just ate because when you
You
watch,
could.
because when you watch these videos on YouTube or whatever on
Yeah.
social media, all you see is guys telling you gotta eat big to get big, and you gotta work until failure. And we did all.
Yeah.
And I was even talking to Tyler the other day. It was so much fun. That was the funnest part about it. The whole thing it was like you would just work out, and you would just eat, and it wasn't no chicken and grease and asparagus, right? Like once in a while you would do that just to make yourself feel good. But no, it was like go crush 2-foot-long subs at Subway, soup, cookies, pop, and then plan out dinner for sushi 2 hours later, ice cream, sushi, like a whole platter of sushi rolls. And then I was like, okay, I'll go home, I'll eat a couple chicken breasts, stuff my face with anything, any healthy food you can find. Then it was like late at night, you'd go get pizza. And then start the cycle all over again. But it was so much fun that it kept you doing it. It kept you in the gym. It made you go. It made you work
hard.
Yeah, it made you work hard because you're like, man, I just ate a whole pizza. Like I gotta go hold myself on the leg press, right?
Yeah.
So that was fun. And then I'm trying to think of a point of where it turned into actual bodybuilding. I think it was probably 2 or 3 years in. And me and my brother Justin were starting to follow a little closer what needed to be done. A little closer what needed to be done. And then eventually I got lined up with a guy. His name was Josh Cote, and I asked him if he would coach me because he has coached competitive athletes before.
Oh, okay.
And he did it. And then.
So did you meet him in the gym, or did you just hear about him and message him, or is he?
There was a couple bodybuilders at like the gym we worked out at.
Oh, okay.
And they did one show, and I think they did quite well. I can't remember their actual placing.
Yeah.
But I remember guys talking about them. Like, Josh coaches. Josh Cote coaches. It was kind of a funny story. I went into Supplement King here in Edmonton in the brewery district, and Josh was working there.
Oh.
And I said, oh, you coach, so-and-so, Bronson and Mitch. And he's like, yeah, I coached them. I was like, would you coach me? And he says, yeah. So we worked out the details. He wrote on my diet, and I started officially like bodybuilding.
Yeah.
So I started following the diet. I knew I could do it. I always knew I could do it. So we officially did that. And, I finally got around to kind of like doing my first cycle and with Josh, and I did everything, but I didn't know back then. This happens with a lot of people. I can find out is like, you think you're invincible when you're young. So when you think you're invincible, you'll do whatever you do out of impulse. And at the time, I was taking all this gear and eating all this food, but I remember I think my buddy was having a festival. He put on a festival. It was great. It was a good time, but festivals have a lot of drugs. Recreational drugs. And I think I was drinking, which was already a bad thing to be doing, taking a bunch of gear. And then eventually, started doing drugs at a festival, and when in Rome, be a Roman, right? So you're there. And then I ended up doing myself a lot of damage there in that short amount of time. Because Lord only knows what I did. I don't even remember. Like it was just like, it was just crazy. Like there was just too much going around.
Yeah.
And anyways, I think a couple days went by, I started to feel really bad. My eyes turned yellow, and people started telling me my eyes turned yellow. When your eyes turn yellow, that's a sign. Like, you're jaundiced.
Yeah.
And that happened to me. And that was when I had to quit bodybuilding because like I had to go to the hospital eventually. Eventually you got to be like, hey, this is like something's really wrong here.
Yeah.
And I went through about 3 months of just it was the worst. Like when you're I'll walk you through a little bit too. It's like when you start to turn yellow, it's like it's because your red blood cells are breaking down in your body, and they don't get to leave.
Mm,
So they build up in the blood, and then everything kind of starts turning yellow in your
okay.
skin. But that's not even the worst part. Like, looking bad is not my
Yeah.
issue here. Is
Yeah.
that when it happens, it stays in your skin and it makes you itchy.
Oh,
And it makes you itchy to the point where you will scratch your skin off of your skin. Like, it's
Oh,
like
wow.
you can't get relief. It's like a billion mosquito bites all at one time that you can't actually scratch. You'll never get to the bottom of it. It'll never be relieved. It just kind of goes away on its own, and it could take 5 minutes, it could take 30 seconds.
Mhm.
And that wasn't even really the worst part about it. Not only do you feel just lethargic and your liver's not working. I don't know what happened either. I never ever really got answers. So like at the end of this conversation, you're probably like, well, what did the doctor say?
Mhm.
I never got a real answer.
Okay.
It was never a solution. It was like one day I woke up and I was 50% better. The next day after that, I was 100% better. And I never looked
wow.
back. So it was a 3 month. I remember it being about 3 months almost to the day of this torture of what I would call it torture, absolute torture, like, you know, meth head scratching your skin off.
Yeah.
So, and then once the itching kind of went away, if you want to call it that, it never really went away. You started to, instead, it was burning the skin. So whatever, there was a term for it, and I knew it off by heart, obviously, but I don't know it now. Sure it'll come to me. But my skin started burning, so like, and it's so much worse than the itching because it's constant. It was always constant. So you can't lay on your side because your skin is burning, and then you lay on your back and the skin on your back is burning. Sometimes you would go take a bath and it would subside for 10 minutes. You didn't sleep because your skin was burning. You couldn't get comfortable enough to sleep if you wanted to. You didn't really eat because your liver plays a big role in like your gallbladder and stuff, your digestion of food. So you didn't really eat, you didn't really want to eat, and anything you did eat was probably greasy and shitty because you feel so bad that you can't even cook for yourself. Luckily my grandma would stop and just food, but just an awful time. And once this had all went away, I didn't do any bodybuilding or training for about a month. That whole time I always wanted to get back in the gym. I tried to, I just couldn't. There was no energy, no food. I just said you need to rest and recover. So eventually I did, and like I said, I got overnight. It was almost overnight. It was the night 50%, 2 days, 100% better, completely healed. Eyes white, skin not yellow, everything. And then obviously you're excited and you go see the doctor, and all my blood levels didn't quite come back perfectly, but they were enough to not be yellow anymore and to not feel like shit. That's plenty for me, right? So I ended up during that time I got back into training. I didn't do any steroids or anything like that, no gear. But I do remember missing doing bodybuilding. And so Josh kind of quit coaching at the time. He opened up a supplement king, and he actually told me, he's like, man, you should get a Brad Miller. And then I talked to another guy named Mitch. I was like, you know anybody coaching that's kind of local? He's like, well, Brad Miller. Probably your guy. So eventually I think I gave Braden a shot on Instagram. I was like, hey man, like I've been recommended to you by multiple people now. That must be a good sign, you know. So he scheduled a call with me. We had gotten started. We laid out my goals and his goals, his goals for me and what he thinks would be best. We agreed. It was very professional. I don't think there could have been much more of it. I wouldn't call it like love at first sight, like, oh, you clicked, but we didn't clash, definitely. And it was a very professional, accountable relationship between the two of us. Like I said, we weren't calling each other bro right away. Like, I just, I filled out the application. I went through the process. I didn't want to come off as the guy as like, hey, my buddy put me on to you. I'm going to treat you like a buddy now. I wanted to go through the process so that he knew that I was serious about bodybuilding. It wasn't about me looking for justification of my gear use or my gym. I was opening a gym at the time.
Okay.
And, you know, like I did everything just as easy for him as it would have been for me.
Mm-hmm.
I did it all. And all I did for a long time was Braden gave me a list of things to do.
Mm-hmm.
We weren't particularly friendly
Mm-hmm.
together, like, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't a relationship like that.
Yeah.
I just did what he said.
Yeah.
I just did it. I just fucking did it, right? Like, and I took a lot of pride in that. And the more that I didn't focus on being a bro,
Yeah. Yeah.
the more we became bros.
Right. Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
It's like the more
Yeah.
success that you achieve by being professional
Yeah.
created much more of a
Yeah.
bond between the two of us.
Okay. Yeah.
So if you look back on it now, I mean, now,
So how long ago, when did you start?
I want to say like this summer is
coaching?
probably
Okay.
like May would have been about 2 years almost.
Okay. Okay.
Pretty close
Yeah.
to my birthday, I guess. So early
Okay.
May, I want to say May 15th or something like that.
Okay. Okay. So
And it would have been about 2 years. So,
Yeah.
in that time, I had a lot of ideas of competing and when might be a good time. I was a little impatient. I thought maybe I was ahead of the game. Once again, very professional. Just said, no, I think you should just wait.
Yeah.
Another year now.
Mhm.
Just wait another year. Keep working hard like you do.
Mhm.
He says, then I think I'll put you on stage and you can be not only competitive, but
Mhm.
so thinking back on it now, and even when I had started prep, I said, thank God I did that.
Mhm.
Because a year ago, I would have just been some shit ass
You know where you are
middle
today.
of the pack bodybuilder, and they would not have been as fun.
Yeah.
Like this is the key in seeing the bigger goal, right? Like
Yes.
especially or like even if you can't see it, sometimes you just gotta trust that someone else can. And that's not just a bodybuilding coach relationship.
Just the process.
That's a life process. That could be your partner, your wife, your husband. That could be a business partner. That could be, you know, a family member. Like sometimes people just don't grass.
Mhm.
There's a lot too. Sometimes you got to trigger on
Right.
certain things,
Right.
but recognizing those times and those opportunities and like taking a step back out of your own body to be like, yeah, you're right. Like if I were to like come, like sometimes you got to hold yourself to a higher standard. Like if I were to compare myself to a professional, I'm not a professional, but if you were to compare yourself to an IFBB pro, how close are you?
Mhm.
And the answer back then would have been like, you're not even, you're a piss, right? Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it would make no sense.
Yeah.
So thinking back on it, I'm like, yeah, no, that time when I sat there and I trusted him and I said, no, I'm not going to compete. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing
Mhm.
and put in a lot of work and maximize it. And you know, now it's really all worth it, especially today. You know, prep for this show anyways is over. And I got an overall in classic, which
Congratulations. It's
Yeah.
really the first time competing.
first
you know,
time,
overall.
first show ever, you
That's
know. And
fabulous.
although I didn't get my goal in bodybuilding,
Mhm.
once again, I really, as a little bit more time goes on, I can't really be upset because one, the person who beat me has a lot of experience on me and a lot of time competing with stage time, a lot of muscle, a lot of hard work put into their
Yeah.
physique that I can't discount just
Yeah.
because I put in a little bit of my own work
Yeah.
too, you know, you can't. But like I said, the way that it worked out where I lost bodybuilding, but then like it just couldn't be a more
It's great
perfect day
experience,
for me,
right? Like,
actually. Like
yeah.
I've been excited
Yeah.
for about 2 weeks leading up into the
Nice.
show. I was dieting, but it didn't feel like dieting. I was
Which
just
is nice.
excited to get on stage.
That's fabulous when it doesn't feel like,
Mhm.
you know.
And a lot of people have these nerves and they keep talking about the nerves and they're like, oh, well, you know, I got in my own head. I ate this box of cookies or don't let it get in your head. It's just like people would say these things, but I'm like, I really just don't feel that way. I was like, I'm actually just
That's
really
amazing.
too excited
That's
to get on
amazing.
stage to let anything ruin it.
Right.
So my last probably 2 to 3 weeks of prep were, I hate to call them easy, but they were easier than weeks like 10 to 4.
Okay.
Because like you can see the light at the end of the tunnel and it's a
Yeah.
reasonable
Yeah.
amount of time to be like, okay, 21 days. is
gonna
really
fly
not
by,
that long,
right?
as long as you're just nailing your checklist every day.
Yeah,
And that's how it worked out. That being said, I was also in shape quite early.
Okay,
So we were able to pull back some of my stressors early and then maintain food
yeah,
without
nice.
getting any muscle or
Yeah.
anything like that. So that worked out good. It left me really fresh and excited for the show. Like it really, if the more I talk about it, the more I realize it probably could not have went any better.
Nice.
You know, and then even the experience today, there was a couple of things that stressed me out, like, oh, you gotta go get tan, and then you gotta make sure you don't stay, don't wreck your tan, you know, you're right behind, don't wreck your tan, don't fuck up your tan, and go get glazed, and go do this, and change your chunks, and now it's this class, and now it's this class.
It's a busy day.
It's a busy day, but like,
It's a long day.
it was early, and I guess
Yeah,
it's only
you
what,
guys were
6:30 or something.
Something like that.
Yeah, so.
Yeah, you have all evening.
Yeah,
to
I mean,
relax
like,
now.
like, yeah, exactly, you
Yeah.
can relax, it feels pretty good, like I said, when you have fun. Like, I didn't think standing on stage, like, was actually gonna be like posing with people.
Yeah.
Like, the competitive nature of the game was actually as fun as it was until you get to really experience it.
Mhm.
And it's like, you know, when you're pulling up a back double and you guys are touching elbows, and I gotta actually fight my way into the crowdies, and like, I'm not shy, and
Yeah.
I'll push you over. And like, that was fun, that was a lot of fun. And a big part of that too, I was saying, I think I was talking to Justin earlier, I was like, I haven't done any competitive events in so long because it's been nothing but off season.
Right.
To actually come and do the competitive, because I used to do them all the time. There was always a hockey tournament, hockey game, a paintball tournament.
Yeah.
There were long days too, right?
Yeah.
They were a lot more frequent.
Yeah.
But this one was like, okay, there's not like, it's not like we're bodybuilding today. Like, we are in a sense, but it's like, there's no training today.
Yeah.
Other than the pump up, and like it's completely different than being in the gym and eating the bodybuilding food every day. It's like, this is like the competitive side of it, and it was just it was a lot of fun, and a lot of the fun came from too, as well as my buddy Seth, also competing in the same show. And we work out together. He comes to my gym. He's like, I'm sponsored back. We just had a blast, and then we ended up being in the overall classic on stage.
Oh, together.
Oh,
wow.
Yeah, and Seb, I guess he took second. Yeah, he took second. So so we were like posing down on stage and stuff, and like he just texted me. He's like, "Man, I love you, dude." He's like, "It was such a fun time," and I was like, "You're right, dude. Like, this was because we confided in each other about the whole prep, right?
Yeah.
Like, we both had things happen in our personal life that just made it difficult, and that's what anybody I talk to, I feel like
there's a story.
Somebody
Everyone's got a
died,
story,
or
right?
a family member, or this, girlfriend.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest one.
That you've been here.
Break up with your girlfriend. Yeah, well, that's what happened with me, right? My girlfriend, we broke up, couldn't handle a brat, like. So like, there's always something, right? Like, and that's what kind of made me realize when my buddy told me about his dad dying. I was like, I took, our girl. I didn't take that hard, but like, it was a personal life thing that fucked with me, and like, but then I thought about it, I was like, well, it's good. Shit, my dad didn't die.
Yeah.
That's pretty bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, how would you feel like when a family member dies? It could be months, it could be years. Some people just don't recover, I mean, most people, like 3 months in an old relationship is usually water under the bridge. I feel like we can all probably agree on that for the most part, aside from some marriage, maybe, and certain things like that. But like, it's usually a lot less. Anyways, when I talked to him, it was like, I'm glad that it was a breakup and not my mother dying.
There was because that had to have been hard for sure. Like, to have to go through that, and in the state you're in already, because you're in a little bit of a fragile state. I mean, it's tough and it's horrible, and I can't even imagine how he powered through that.
Yeah, and that's the thing, is like, when I was in prep and I had a breakup, I went quite numb for the most part. I actually didn't feel a whole lot of anything. And I remember one day it did all hit me all at once. I he was flood of emotions.
Yeah.
I don't know if it has something to do with hormones,
Yeah.
or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And but yeah, I got a huge flood of emotions, and it ended up being a hard, like, 4-day stretch.
Mhm.
But didn't really have any communication with her, and it just kind of business.
Then you were able to move on with the, yeah.
Really, yeah, pretty much, yeah. So
So being your first competition, and with you working out before and just eating what you wanted to eat and just building on your own, and then getting into the more serious side of it, how did you find that? Because it's like there isn't that you go out and just feast
Well,
type of thing. It's different. So
the first thing
What's that?
you realize is how difficult it is. So when you watch these, like, YouTube videos, and as bodybuilders, we all do it. I think you'd be lying if you said you didn't. You watch motivational videos, or some old DVD of Jay Cutler, right? Or you follow your favorite pro, and they sit there and they say this shit like, it's the hardest sport in the world. It's the hardest sport in the world. And you sit on the couch, and I played a lot of sports.
Yeah.
And I said, no, man. I was like, don't get me wrong. I was like, it's hard. I was like, there's some hard ass sports out there.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is I remember hearing Dory Mead say this: it's 365 days a year, 24 hours a day. And then I started realizing, like, even just like with my girlfriend and some of the trips that we've taken and stuff, and how much I've kind of ruined the trip because Ryan packed this big container of fucking cooked beef. He has this big container of rice. He ran out halfway to Edmonton, so now he has to delay any sort of trip that any activity you've done for 45 minutes because he's going to be at the hotel room trying to cook rice. And you start to realize that, like, it's not you that's upset about cooking the food, but it is stressful when someone's upset at you for cooking the food. And it's not just your girlfriend. It's like, it's your parents if they come with you. It's like when you pull up to your uncle's place for a barbecue and they're like, what are you doing? Like, oh, I gotta make some rice. If you're serious, if you're a serious bodybuilder anyways,
and you're like, your food with you, right?
and you're like, well, I gotta make some rice, because if I don't make it here, I made time to come visit you guys for a barbecue, but if I don't start making the rice here, then I won't have time to do it when I go home, because I gotta train when I get home. And then they just look at you, they're like, well, why don't you just not train today then? And you're like, well, no, you can't just not, you implode. You're like, no, you can't just not train, It's hard because you're guilty. I think it's the easiest way to break it down.
If you're not in the sport, you just don't understand. And it doesn't matter even how you explain it. It's like, it's just, this is what I do now.
And I hate to put it in the simplest form.
Support is huge.
Huge,
right?
Yeah.
So,
I hate to put it in its simplest form because it sounds so cliche. Because that's all you ever hear is like, well, you just don't understand. You just wouldn't understand until you do it. But I can't think of any other way in English to, you know what I mean? Just say to explain it, because
it's true.
Because how would you I could name a billion things, but in someone else's brain, they would just be like, well, then just don't make the rice, man. Go buy some rice, which you could do, I guess. But like me driving 20 minutes down the road to go buy rice from
But it's gotta be, plain rice. You gotta make sure, like, you don't have this.
Otherwise, you're guilty.
Well, you don't want a bunch of this, and you know what, right?
Otherwise, you're guilty. Yeah,
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's a science. It is a stressful
lifestyle.
So when they say that it's the hard sport, and you were saying, no. So when you got into it, you understood.
You realize it is actually the hardest sport.
It is 24 hours.
Because it not only strains you as a person and makes you guilty and stressed, it strains everybody else around you that may already be a part of your life. And then it also puts you in a bubble for anybody else that may want to be a part of your life. So like you get into this cycle of selfishness.
Which you
get too used to, which is great for bodybuilding.
It's not selfish. It's,
No,
Yeah.
I would call it selfish because
No.
it's great for bodybuilding.
Yeah,
It's absolutely great for
Yeah.
bodybuilding if you have nobody to care about. But if you do, bodybuilding is going, unfortunately, this is the harsh reality of it, it is going to take away
yes,
from, if you are serious
Yeah.
about it, it's gonna take away from the life of your children a little bit, a
Yeah.
little bit.
Yeah,
I'm not saying you can't make time for your kids.
oh no.
Your wife is going to suffer losing some time with you. And if she's not understanding or supportive, like you said, you know, you're not having the support, there's gonna strain your relationship.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
everybody else has to pay, if you choose to have those people in your life, has to kind of pay for your lifestyle. It's like paying taxes.
Mm.
And if that person doesn't like understand the concept of how like give and take is,
Yeah.
but that's relationship issues.
Yeah.
And that's been talked about
And
millions of
Yeah.
times. From
And
everybody, I'm sure.
I recall my first competition.
You were a competitive
Yeah.
bodybuilder as well? Okay,
Yeah, I'll be competing July 22nd and then Toronto,
Mhm.
2 weeks after.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I was struggling. It was my first one and I was struggling. And I said to my husband, I'm like, I don't even know how you can stand me right now because I can't even stand myself.
Mhm.
Like I was in such a state and I'm like, the greatest support system, right? And my girls, and they all just tolerated and they knew just steer clear. Right?
Yeah, it's funny that you
But,
say that because like when I
I've
started,
gotten a lot better. And I've gone through, I use hypnosis as a hypnotherapist for just handling everything.
Handling.
Game changer. Oh, yeah.
that's actually interesting because I never thought about that. Like what I did is with my ex-girlfriend was I told her out of 23 weeks, I was like, listen, I need this 22 weeks. I'm gonna prep. So I'm not gonna come over and visit as much as I normally do. I'm going to be angry because I know how angry I get when I'm hungry.
Mm-hmm.
I said I'm gonna be taking things that are gonna fuck up my hormones,
Mm-hmm.
which means a lot of things that people don't understand either.
Mm-hmm.
Your libido and your sex drive are not going to be what they normally would be, whether they're on the high end or low end is,
Mhm.
I don't know. Nobody knows really
Right.
what happens until you get into those depths. You're gonna be hungry, and when you're hungry, you're miserable. You're just mean, right? I told her many times, I was like, don't take anything I say particularly personally. I was like, you're better off. And I know that it's not that easy, but I said, just try not to take anything I do personally. And I said, like, there's gonna be times where I just want to sit at home. I'm gonna be tired. I'm just gonna go train. And unfortunately, like, I'm gonna prioritize the training over a little bit of time with you,
Mm-hmm.
but it is temporary. And I just need the support. And most of the time they're like, yeah, it's all good. But then,
That's what happens.
then, when we did break up, I said, well, it's been like 3 months of this.
Mhm.
And you're like, yeah, I know. I still got 2 to go.
Yeah.
2.
Yeah.
And believe me, I
Yeah.
know how hard it is. But it's,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
they don't, and they don't understand, like they do at first. It only gets harder. It's, now that I've done it, and not that I've played every single sport on the planet or
Yeah.
anything like that, but it has gotta be harder
Yeah.
sports now because you
It
play
plays with everything too, like your mindset, right? That's huge. And the commitment and the dedication and the motivation and, the support system. So yeah, like I see.
Well, when you play hockey, you play your game, and yeah, it's hard. Don't get me wrong, I played hockey too, and it's taxing.
Yeah.
But you go home and you go to bed.
Yeah.
And you leave hockey to the rink.
Yeah.
Most of the time,
It's
and
not
if
a
you-
24/7.
if you're like very serious, you get up and you go back to the rink
Yeah.
or whatever. But it's still just for an hour or two, and then you go home. And I guess if you're a really, really serious hockey player, you go and eat like a diet.
Mhm.
But I guarantee you their diet doesn't consist of depriving, for one.
Mhm.
It's all about recovery.
Yeah.
Like there's so
There's
many
so
things
many
about
things, yeah.
bodybuilding that are just like you could name them and you're like, okay, now and then try and find yourself something you like to do in the day. Like,
Yeah.
even though it's
Yeah.
bodybuilding,
Yeah.
right? But like,
Yeah.
or let's say maybe for a better example, try and find something that your girlfriend likes to do in the
Yeah.
day. and schedule an hour out of your day to make it work.
Yeah.
And tell me how that fucks up everything, all of this. Let me know how it goes for you and how stressed it is, because you didn't realize how much time it actually takes up. It's unreal actually to get the insight firsthand. And you gotta want it.
Yes. You gotta know your why.
Really want it. And today, how much fun I had today is the ultimate point of it all. Was like, after the feeling of today and how much fun I had today with everybody, is why I wanted it. And it feels great, and I'm not upset.
Awesome.
And I was a little bit, and I
Yeah.
should not have gotten that way, because that's being a force sport. And
All in the learning.
it all came out, and I won the overall and classic, and I felt great about myself, and now I feel great about going to the next show.
Great. So on that note, I want to say congratulations
Thank you.
and enjoy your evening feast.
Yeah.
And thank you for joining me.
I want to thank my guest today and my listeners for joining me at Beyond the Prep. If you like this episode and want to make sure you don't miss any others, please subscribe. You can also find us on YouTube.